Welcome to the Exact Digital Podcast, the show where we dive into how digital marketing agencies are using paid media to drive real growth for their clients and for themselves. From planning to ROI and everything in between, we uncover the strategies, stories, and systems that set agencies apart. Each episode, we'll talk with agency leaders who are innovating with paid media, scaling their businesses, and delivering results that matter. Whether you're looking to expand your services or sharpen the edge of your current offerings, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Exact Marketing Advice Podcast. I'm Tasha Grantham with Exact Digital, and I'll be your host for today's episode. And I'm excited to have Kaitlin Petrillo with me today. Kaitlin is the CEO and founder of Reach Detroit. Reach Detroit is a boutique, white-glove digital marketing agency specializing in social media-first strategies to help brands cut through the noise, connect meaningfully with their audiences, and ultimately convert. Kaitlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tasha. I'm so excited to be here today.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. Now, Kaitlin, for any listeners out there who might not be familiar with Reach Detroit, can you share a bit about yourself and your background and how Reach Detroit got started and the types of businesses that you guys typically connect with?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you again for having me and for the fabulous introduction. So I founded Reach Detroit back in 2019. I had graduated several years prior and really just kind of got my hands in a bunch of different freelance opportunities. My parents early on were like, "What are you doing? Go get a full-time job." I'm like, "Wait, you guys, I promise this will work out." So um, at that time, I was freelancing for Ford Truck Social. I was freelancing for Western Michigan University, and I started to build what we now refer to as our full service social client portfolio. So fast forward a few years, an opportunity popped up at Western and kind of dove in full speed ahead and really allowed me to kind of turn Reach Detroit into what it is today. So now 2026, I almost said 2025 there, 2026, we have a client portfolio of 7, 2 of which are large higher education institutions. And yeah, it's kind of just a short abbreviation of the last 7 years.
Yeah, so we want to talk about defining organic social media today. So with the organic social media, I know that's changed a whole lot over the years. How do you guys define effective organic social media management today, and how does Reach Detroit approach it differently than other agencies?
Yeah. And I mean, let's be honest, the social media landscape is changing every single day. And so what might be working today may not be working tomorrow. So when it comes to social, we are constantly testing whether that's trying a new platform, trying a new format, trying a new way of writing copy or speaking to our audiences, and constantly doing tests, like a little A/B testing moment to see what's sticking and what's not. And I think when it comes to the social landscape and just really everything these days, especially when we're in the digital world, it's about being able to adapt, right? There may be a new platform, there may be a new style of content. The audience may be consuming differently and user behaviors may be changing. So really just staying on top of what's new, what's happening, how are users engaging with the platform, how are they engaging with your content, and being able to pivot and recognize when that changes. And also, like I said, testing, right? So trying something new, hey, that's working. That's great. Let's do more of what's working. Or trying something new and realizing, hey, that didn't work. We gave it a shot. We gave it 3, 4, maybe 5 tries, and it's still not sticking. And so let's pivot and let's take the next step.
Absolutely. And I will say a lot of times with clients, I feel like and you hate to use the scenario, but there's no other way to say it. It's like everybody has champagne taste on a beer budget, so to say. It's like everybody wants to try every platform. And in the organic world, that's great, and you definitely want to be in those spaces. But when you're in the paid space, you really have to realize that like time, talent, and budgets, they truly are finite. And so you have to say, okay, if we have this much money, we have to get the most bang for our buck in, the platform that works the best. And so, we constantly have to steer our clients and say, it doesn't behoove you to spend a very minute amount of money in each platform. Whereas if you would just go with the platforms that are performing the best and let's really put some money behind those, that's where you really start seeing a big difference. And so, can you kind of talk to kind of having to steer clients in the right direction and kind of, I guess I would say, hone in on that focus and not just be everywhere all the time in the social media world?
Yeah, well, what you said, I mean, look, we all have a finite opportunity when it comes to time and talent. And so a client can come to us and say, hey, we want to be on these 5 platforms. Okay, let's go do some market research. Let's go see where your audience is actually at. Who are we talking to and where are they spending their time? And we're always using data to kind of tell those stories. It's not, hey, I believe that we should be here and period. It's, hey, we should be here because of X, Y, and Z. This is where the audience is at. This is what's performing. This is who you're trying to reach and where they're spending their time. And so really using data to tell that story versus just kind of making a decision and trying to pull them up to that decision making as well. At the end of the day, like I said, we're just always leaning on the numbers and that research to kind of back up what we're saying. And that's kind of how we'll help like steer a client who may want to be everywhere, but really they should only maybe be on these 2 and or they only have budget for 2. So let's focus on the ones that have like the strongest opportunity for them.
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree. So, kind of jumping into that and talking about all the things, and it is, when you offer so many different things, saying clients, look, the sky's the limit. We can do this, but this is, really where we want to focus. And so I think that is really, really vitally important for clients. So just kind of jumping into some of those current service offerings, what are your core services that you currently offer?
Yeah, so we really offer like 3 main buckets across our client portfolio, and kind of without outside of our client portfolio too. So last year we opened up our content creation services to those who may not be full service clients, right? Someone may come to us and they say, hey, I have this kind of budget right now. I'm looking to grow my social. I'm looking for a bank of content creation, but I'm not quite ready for full service yet. So content creation is that first bucket. We find that a lot of people maybe only want content creation and they want to do the posting themselves and they want to be responsible for that pressing send and whatnot. And so we found that a lot of success kind of outside our full service client portfolio in that realm. Secondary is our strategy, content creation, and reporting packaging. So this basically is exactly that. It's an annual structure where we are setting up the social strategy for the client. We are doing quarterly content creation for the client. And then we're also doing quarterly reporting for the client as well. So it's, hey, this is what social is telling us. It's what the research is telling us and how we should move in this space, which guides our content creation. And then the reporting that constantly kind of speaks to and or helps us pivot and make those decisions as we move through the rest of the year with them. And then lastly is our full service social client. So this is where we are doing all of those things for the clients. We are creating the social strategy. We are handling the content creation. We are handling the content calendars, the copywriting, the community engagement, the reporting, and all the strategy that goes into the pivoting throughout the year for those clients. So those 3 main buckets are where our services are at right now.
Awesome. That's wonderful. And so I know you said that you really follow the numbers and the numbers decide, where you want to be, where you need to be, and how you need to pivot. And so I know, everybody always thinks, there are certain places that you need to be. Can you kind of speak very quickly to which social platforms you guys are focusing on for most of your clients right now? And how do you help businesses decide where they should be and where they shouldn't be showing up?
Yeah, definitely. I think when it comes to, like I said, making that decision, it is about where that audience is at. If our client comes to us and they're trying to reach maybe the 35 to 55, maybe we're not going to say, hey, we should put all of our budget into TikTok. Or if they're trying to reach a prospective student or a younger audience, maybe we're like, hey, we need to go full force ahead into TikTok. So it really all does depend on that audience. But speaking on a high level, when it comes to discoverability, obviously TikTok and Instagram are going to offer the biggest bang for your buck, the most opportunity to reach the most amount of eyes. But we're hearing and we're seeing that that LinkedIn is also kind of like stepping up to bat here. They just introduced a For You page, which is exciting and pretty cool. I need to dive a little bit more deeper into what that means for the platform, but LinkedIn has also been a successful tool for us over the last year. And with the introduction of the For You page, we may do some different recommendations when it comes to where our clients show up and really start to look at and lean into that as a top platform.
Awesome. And can you talk to me just a little bit about like founder storytelling? What do you guys how do you guys really lean into that?
Yeah, I think we're in a day and age where people are no longer just buying from brands, right? We're buying from people that we like, know, and trust. And we're seeing it across the board when it comes to social, whether that be founder storytelling or employee generated content, both of which like really started to pop off a year and a half ago. And that's really putting a face behind the brand. That'd be me showing up for Reach Detroit or my team showing up for Reach Detroit. And so maybe the founder or the CEO, it doesn't have all the time in the world to show up on social, but that's where the employees can step in and really tell the story of what it means to be part of this business. Because at the end of the day, like I said, we're buying from people that we like, know, and trust. And and quite frankly, it's not always about the product. Obviously, we want a top of the line product, but we want to know how it's made. What are your like ethics behind the creation of that? And everything that goes into what makes this company special. And a lot of times we find that that's the people behind the brand.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I say all the time, I feel like, 30 years ago in marketing, it was just if you were on the internet, you were doing great. And then
Ahead
it
of
was
the
like if you had a TV commercial, you were doing great. And then there became a space where it seems like everybody was moving. And I talk all the time about, there are a lot of these legacy businesses that feel like, okay, we have been in business for 30 years and all of a sudden something is changing and we're not doing anything different. And the problem is that you're not doing anything different. And there have been competitors that have come on the scene and they have figured out how to utilize social platforms, how to utilize SEO, how to really drive traffic to the website. And the truth is that you're sitting here sitting still, but your competitors are really moving forward. And so you're actually getting behind, so to say. And, I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. And I say we are now marketing to a generation of people that 18 to 25-year-old, they have truly been raised with a device in their hand. And so they are used to things coming at them all the time. And so now it's not just about having content out there, but you almost have this group of people who are a little more cynical, a little less trusting of advertisement, so to say. And so I think that's where that authentic piece really comes in. And like you said, it's not just about the what, but about the why, the how, and how does it benefit me? What is the connection between your product and me? And how can I resonate with that product to make me want to purchase it? And I think that has become way more important in marketing than people realize just on the surface.
Yeah, and to kind of further lean into that, we were having a conversation with a client the other day, and they brought us into a brainstorm to talk about the music or the sounds that we were going to hear behind their TikTok advertising campaign. And so we showed up, we did some homework. We're like, hey, this is kind of what we're thinking. But in all honesty, when it comes to TikTok, we don't want to hear a sound. I don't even want to think it's an ad. Then the second that you add a non-copyrighted audio or something that sounds instrumental behind a video or bookend it with a logo, this I'm scrolling immediately past. I want someone to look like they are talking to me through the camera. I don't want it to feel like an ad. And like you said, those 18 to 25-year-olds and around there too, even us, we can recognize an ad a mile away. And it takes a lot more and a lot more authenticity to make someone stick around. And so I think that kind of further leans into what you were saying there.
No, absolutely. I think that's really important. And I think that kind of leads us into our next point, which is talking about like that content consistency and your brand's voice. I know that consistency seems to be a really big challenge for many brands. How do you guys help your client maintain that consistent posting and really have that clear brand voice while still having that authentic piece to things?
Yeah, this is a conversation that we have in the onboarding process with our clients too, because we can't be prepared if they're not prepared, right? So sometimes at the beginning of a client introduction or during that onboarding piece, we're starting to help our clients wrap their head around the fact that things need to be planned more than a couple days or a week in advance. And that goes beyond social, right? That comes down to your entire marketing strategy. What sales are you having throughout the year? When are these big marketing pushes? And kind of thinking on an annual and or minimally a quarterly basis to know what's coming up the pipeline and to know when we are having those big things that we need to talk about. Um, like I said, it is truly all about preparation, and that's outside of social, and that comes down to an entire marketing plan. But we're always planning in advance. So most of our clients operate on a monthly content calendar. And so when we ask them questions, maybe on March 1st, we're going to ask questions, but we're going to be talking about April 1st and on. And so that takes a little bit of conversation and getting used to for those who might just be planning a week or 2 weeks out when it comes to what they're doing in terms of their marketing. So it truly is all about preparation, and we can't do our jobs. And I'm sure you have seen this before too. It's hard to market what you don't know is coming and or whip up something on the fly that is as strategic as we want it to be.
Oh, absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, what is it? An ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. So, being prepared, I think, plays into that as well. I think it's so important that, you're ahead of the curve and that you're not being reactive in all the things. Because I think if you're, 2 steps behind, then you're missing a lot of really great opportunity for sure. And as you know, we play in the paid space all day, every day. But we have clients come to us a lot of times and they're like, hey, we just feel we're not sure if our organic is working. Can you talk to me a little bit about how, like, when clients ask you to tell them if their organic social media efforts are actually working? What are some of the things that you guys look for beyond likes and follower counts?
Yeah. So, I mean, follower counts are really a metric of the past. It truly is a vanity metric. And you can have a million followers, but you might have a 0.01% engagement rate. And that's where we're like, that's not being optimized for you. And so when it comes to a KPI, it's all dependent on what that client is looking for. Someone may come to us and say, I want brand awareness. Those are very easy stories to tell. But when we're talking about conversions, those are lower bottom of the funnel conversations. And it really is how people interact once they leave social. And so we're looking at the Google Analytics, we're looking at how people are moving through a website, maybe where they're getting stuck or falling off on the website too, and really talking to our clients about, hey, we're going to continue pushing people this way, but we need to optimize the bottom of the funnel to make sure that we don't lose them and lose their trust when they make it off of our social. But on a high level, on the social side, we're really looking for those community centered engagements now. So those aren't necessarily likes anymore either. That's like the saves, the shares, the comments. These interactions are showing us that not only are we reaching eyes, but the eyes that we're reaching, we're resonating with them too, right? It's
Right.
when I send something to you in the DMs, I'm like, hey, this made me think of you. Or I post it to my story because I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so me. So those kinds of interactions that tell us that, like I said, not only that we are reaching the right people, but we're also resonating with something that feels important to them and that they want to share, comment, save, and maybe even come back to in the future.
No, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I will tell you that something that we have struggled with, I call it the influencer craze. And I think you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And so let's just say it's a car dealer. And this car dealer all of a sudden decides that they want to connect with a local influencer. And they're doing a lot of organic style social media stuff. And they're so excited to grow their following, to grow all these things. And it's like, but at the end of the day, followers on TikTok and followers on Instagram and followers on Facebook are not what is making your cash register ring.
Mhm.
How do you keep people focused on keeping the main thing, and not getting sidetracked with becoming an internet influencer, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it back to the data, and it's always about the numbers. And I'm never gonna make a decision or try to persuade a client. I'm sure you feel the same way too, because of a thought or a thought that I had. So when someone comes to us and they're like, okay, like we want to look at some influencers and we want to run an influencer campaign. My first question is, okay, why? Like, what are the goals that we're trying to reach here? And if they're going to tell me, oh, we want more followers, I'm like, okay, then maybe we should talk to an influencer and we'll figure out what that looks like. But if someone's like, oh, I want someone to buy a car or whatever it is that we're trying to sell or get off the lot, maybe we want to try a different approach, right? And so looking at different opportunities and coming to them with those different opportunities, like, hey, this is what could happen if we go this route, and this is what could happen if we go this route. What do you think most aligns with what you're trying to achieve here? So always bringing it back to the data, always bringing it back to the research, and giving options and outlining what those options could do, I think really not only educates the client, but also helps them make the most beneficial decision.
Absolutely. I find sometimes it's easy to lose track. And social media is fun. Let's be honest, that it is enjoyable and a lot of people get excited about it. And, they feel like that's a goal to grow, but it's like just trying to remind people, like, at the end of the day, what pays your bills is car sales, and so just keeping them on track for the main goal sometimes seems to be a little difficult in this day and age with the social media craze that seems to be going on. So
And all the things that are popping up and coming up, and everyone's in everyone's ears saying, you got to try this thing. And yeah, I'm sure you've been there too. And it always comes back to the data because my uncle may tell me, hey, I saw this. This is such a cool idea, but they didn't look much further into it.
absolutely. No, for sure. And so we know that there are a lot of common mistakes that happen when businesses are kind of doing some of these things on their own. What's a really common mistake that you see businesses making with their organic social media presences before they come and start working with your team? And when you get in touch with them and actually get them to the table, how do you help them course correct those mistakes?
Yeah, it's really always there's always a lack of consistency. And there's a lot of times a lack of listening to our audience. Maybe they have done something on social that worked for them a year or a year and a half ago, 3 years ago, and they're still doing the same thing. And they're always like, what is happening? This used to work for us. This is no longer working for us. What is going on? And so it's it it's hard to stay on top of all things social all the time when it's not your day to day. And so we always say like social media is our full-time job. So it is our job to stay on top of those things. So I'd say lack of consistency and lack of trying new things and updating their social strategy as user behaviors and social platforms change. So the first thing that we do when clients come to us is really sit with what are the goals that we're trying to achieve here, who is our audience, and how are they using social, and that's how we're going to start to put together their social strategy. I won't lie, a social strategy may pivot 3 months in because we're like, hey, we tried this and it's not working, or this is working really well, so we're going to further lean into this format over this format. And really being open to that testing and that adaptability as not only we learn more things from the data from our audience, and or as platforms continue to change. We've had clients come to us in the past who haven't published on social in 6 months. And so our first job is to look at what they have published most recently. But if that's 6 months ago, that's not going to tell us as much as we want to know. So that may be an instance where we're going to try something for the first 3 months. We're going to get that data. We're going to listen to our audience, and then we're going to be able to make even stronger, sounder decisions in how we continue to move forward.
Absolutely. I think that makes a ton of sense. And just random sidebar question for you. Do you believe that there is truly a way to hack the algorithms in an organic sense to really help you get to your goals?
I don't think hacking the algorithm is I think you can be very strategic. I don't think you can hack an algorithm. But it reverts me back to always trying in app changes, right? Whether that be a trial reel or asking a question or linking out a piece now in your reel, which you can do, giving those things a try. We hear all the time, Instagram or whatever platform it is, loves when you use things in their platform. But at the end of the day, I don't think you can hack the algorithm, but I do think you can find out how to move on social, speak directly to your audience, and see success in a strong strategy behind what you do.
And when you talk about consistency on an organic platform, what is consistency? A lot of people, consistency is once a month, once every 2 weeks. What does true consistency look like?
In my mind, if this is someone or a small business who's running social for themselves, it's not about how often I can show up, it's how regularly I can show up. And so that someone might just be getting their feet wet in social, and they know that what's reasonable for them is once or twice a week. Then I would say, hey, start with once or twice a week. But I would much rather see that. And I know the platform's back end would much rather see that than someone show up 7 days a week and then not show up again for 3 weeks. And so how do you kind of disperse what's reasonable and relevant for you to create throughout an entire month versus just I'm going hard because I had this inkling and this urge today, and then I won't see you again until April.
Mm, that's fair. I get that. I totally understand. I would definitely say that I'm one of those people that it lacks the consistency in posting at all. So, I think, you go on a kick and you might post 3 times in a week, and then you might not see me online for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just depends on what's going on, and that's just on a personal scale. So I could see that, with the busyness of business that it would be even more difficult to be consistent. So I know that there are probably a lot of businesses out there that just want to be able to focus on their business, and that this is just seems so overwhelming for them. If they feel like this could be a good fit and they really do feel like they need help with social media strategy and content engagement, how would they get in touch with you, Caitlin?
Yeah, yeah. So you can find us on Instagram at Reach Detroit. And then you can also find us on the web at reachdet.com. So that's just the abbreviation for Detroit. That's just reachdet.com. There's a contact form on our website. If you shoot us a DM, you'll either hear from me or our community manager. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We appreciate you coming on and talking to us about social media. I definitely think it's a worthwhile endeavor for businesses this day and age. So we just appreciate you lending your expertise to the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Yeah.